Hello, Evertonians. Welcome to the transfer deadline day stream number 1 of at least 3 today. We have a couple that are already scheduled for a little bit later on. They are at 2 o'clock and 6:30, but I'm bringing you any breaking news that we have today on the transfer front of Everton. And the first little bit of news this morning, well, there's a couple of things, but I think everyone knows about Yousef Chimiti, but we'll come to that in more detail in a moment. Is that we've been linked with Merlin Rohl. That's definitely not how you pronounce him because he is a German. And there's 2 little dots above the O in his surname. So I'm going to pronounce it as best as I can. And when I first saw it, I thought, is this Martin Jol? No, it's Merlin Rohl. He's a central midfielder, 6'3", but he's a box-to-box midfielder again. He has played as an attacking midfielder, not scoring a lot of goals, not assisting a lot of goals. Of course, naturally. But he can also play as a deeper midfielder, maybe a number 8. He isn't really a number 6. He's 21 years of age, I believe. So I'm just going to give you a little bit more of information on him. I want to hear what people are going to say in the comments as well, of course, on the stream. We'll also talk about some general football news that's going to happen now between now and 10 o'clock. So Merlin Rohl is at Freiburg in Germany. Again, Freiburg. Sorry, apologies for any mispronunciations. And if you look at sort of where he's played for them, he's played anywhere and anywhere. So last season alone, he played on the left wing twice. He played on the right wing once, played central midfield 3 times with 1 assist, but predominantly was an attacking midfielder and playing 7 times without scoring or without assisting. And also played as a second striker for 6 times without scoring or without assisting. I didn't play a lot of minutes. He wasn't playing 90 minutes every week, but he did play in quite a lot of wins for them. In fact, I'll tell you where they finished in the league. Now, I'll just get that up for you. Oh, he's 23. Played for Germany under 21s. Just stopped playing for them last year, I think, because he's 23 years of age now. Hasn't been capped by the senior team yet. Freiburg finished 5th. So they had a really, really good season in the Bundesliga. And you know, he was clearly a very pivotal part of a lot of wins without really playing, 90 minutes week in, week out. But he was certainly a player that had a lot of involvement. So it's really difficult when you look at just the raw stats here because you say he doesn't score and he doesn't assist and he's an attacking midfielder. But I think what he does bring you, he's 6'4". And I'll tell you a little bit more about his attributes now from some of the notes that I made earlier. So 6'4" midfielder with decent distribution, reasonable pace actually for a player of that size. Arguably the fastest midfielder in Everton central midfield group. He's not really a long shot taker. He's got good stamina, but isn't particularly strong. Defensively, he's not completely inept, but he's not really a defensive orientated player. Although he does like to make a lot of slide tackles and get stuck in. Quite a player that is not afraid to put a foot in. He's not particularly the most aggressive player, but does have very good vision. So he will link up really nicely with some of the other midfielders at Everton and offer something different because I think he's got that physical play. But I think he is perceived as a playmaker. And guys, I really want to know what people think here. There's 350 of you watching. We don't really need another playmaker. I'm really, really crying out for someone who can play in that number 6 role, who can cover the ground, who can get a foot in and really tenacious, really good at tackling. And they had that option there with Florento Lloris. He's gone to Benfica, from Benfica to Burnley. So Merlin It doesn't really sit in kind of the place that I want, except for the fact that he brings the physicality we need. And I know we were looking at Thomas Souček at West Ham. I feel like that could be a deal that happens quite late on today. I do think that is possible. Someone who definitely does bring goals from midfield, but is obviously a lot slower, a lot older, and not very mobile. But where does Merlin really fit in this sort of group of players? I think Dwight McNeil is quite vulnerable. His place in the squad. He's looked really ineffective in pre-season and in cameos he's made this season so far. I wonder whether we could see some movement maybe with Dwight McNeil leaving and maybe a last-minute move for someone like Fofana at Lyon, who hasn't had his big move yet because I think he's been priced out of a transfer. But again, I don't think Merlin really fits the Dwight McNeil replacement either. I think we seem to be going for a lot of number 10s this summer. Number 10s who can also play out wide, but really want to play central. So he's a 6'4" central midfielder, and it stinks of Marouane Fellaini, to be honest with you, but without any goals or assists pedigree. I want to know what people think here. I feel like I had a point that I was leading on to, but Stephen says, hi lads, Merlin Rohl has arrived in Merseyside for talks. Has he actually? Is he actually in talks? Pause, you got to roll with it. Brilliant. Hard says, come on, Toffees. No, I don't think we're selling anyone. Peter's in agreement. He's the Fellaini or the Souček, but he hasn't scored goals in Germany, Peter. Tazul says, really hope we get Merlin Rohl done. Like the look of him. And Mark says, no, I like McNeil. He can score goals on the day. Would be a shame to lose him. I kind of agree. I think if Dwight McNeil can chip in with a few goals from midfield, help cover left wing, central attacking midfield and right wing when we need him, then he's a good squad player to have. And I'm really happy that we've kind of evolved enough to be able to say that the best attacking players from last season are now your worst. And that's what you want to do. You want to constantly evolve, constantly improve, constantly bring new players in, and constantly progress. So the other bit of news that Everton dealing with this morning is Yousef Chimiti, signed by Kevin Thelwell, the former Everton director of football from Sporting Lisbon. The fee could have risen to 15 million euros, but the 21-year-old is off to Rangers. Ironically, Kevin Thelwell signing him for the second time, as if once wasn't bad enough. No, in all seriousness, he's a player who hasn't broken through, clearly hasn't done enough in training. He's had a huge injury last season, missed nearly the whole season. I think before that, he was signed as a 19-year-old, came in, mostly coming off the bench to kind of harry opponents, defenders, and try and make it difficult for them. But to be honest, never really liked scoring in any of his cameos in that first season. And then, of course, the big injury. I think last season he was just completely on the. There was how many seasons has he been here now? Is it 2? Let's have a look. Because for some reason I feel like it's 3, but it's not. It's 2 seasons. So first one, he was a bit part player, cameos, plenty of cameos, and made 18 appearances for us without scoring, 20 in all competitions, no goals. Then last season, of course, he had the big injury, only made 4 appearances. And I think Barry, with his superior movement, although they are a similar size and profile, they obviously think Barry is just light years ahead of Chimiti. And you have to trust what people are saying in training and that he probably isn't good enough. But I think with a deal like this, where Everton potentially go wrong is that they don't include a buyback option, or they don't have a sell-on clause or first refusal. Well, they will have a sell-on clause, but I believe it's 10%. So I think in this sort of case, Everton must be extremely confident that this boy isn't going to reach the levels. Otherwise, I think we would have pushed really hard for a buyback option. And the type of player that Everton go for, for 4 strikers cost 25 to 35 million. So I wouldn't have been surprised if we'd have just stuck a 35 million buyback in there. But then, Kevin Thelwell hasn't really done a lot of buyback clauses in any of the deals, in or out. So not that we tend to sell any players, it always end up leaving on a free transfer. But they're taking a punt on him, Rangers. I wish him well. I personally didn't understand the hype of the Twitter people. We were saying that Chimiti deserves a chance. On what basis? We saw nothing on any of the occasions he came on. The only time he ever put the ball in the net for us was against Sligo Rovers, who are the equivalent of like a National League team in England. He scored 2 goals for them away at Sligo. But, apart from that, he's done absolutely diddly squat. And to get £8 million back for him, if that is straight into the pot to spend today, then I'm happy with that. And, it would have been good to have brought in another striker, but possibly Iliman Ndiaye will be that third striker. But then he's going to African Cup of Nations. So definitely need some players in today. I'm not saying I wouldn't take Merlin Rohl because he brings that physique and he's quite mobile. But, you want your attacking midfielders to score and assist. But, there might be a little bit more to it. People who've watched him in Germany, he might be a player that's very good at linking the play, maybe like a Dewsbury Hall style, who doesn't always get the goal or assist, although he did, of course, against Wolverhampton Wanderers, but someone who's really involved in the general play and improving the team. But we badly need a right back. We seem to be allergic to right backs, not being linked to anyone. Of course, earlier in the window, it was Kyle Walker who went to Burnley. And I think he would have given you an experienced option, but clearly Everton didn't want to take a chance on him. They think the 35-year-old is finished at this level. Also linked with Kieran Trippier, but I think that one died a death when when Sean Dyche left. Ashley Young, of course, left. He wasn't the level required. He went to Championship team in Ipswich Town. So we chose not to renew his contract. But in terms of the right backs, there really hasn't been anyone. There's Juliana Sanchez at Sevilla, I think. And they were also going to sign Nathan Patterson on loan, a player that really just hasn't made it at Everton, and I don't think ever will. He's another of the young players that you just need to move them on, and you have buyback options, because you can see, we all see it with our own eyes. But Nathan Patterson, for me, isn't a good enough player. They were linked with Sevilla's right back, Sanchez. He was looking like he was going to Napoli. He didn't go to Napoli. In the end, Napoli went really cold on him. But apart from Walker at the start, and of course, I forgot to mention Kenny Tete, the Fulham right back, he would have added a very solid, experienced option at right back, and he would have instantly improved us. But, 600 of you watching, I'm intrigued to know what you think. For me, right back would have been such an easy part of the team to improve. If you were looking at the starting 11, the best starting 11, of course, goal scoring was a major issue. And I think we've come a long way in terms of resolving that situation with the creative players, though we do need both of our centre forwards, particularly Barry, to start banging some goals in. You would have said you can instantly elevate that defence by signing a half decent right back, because it's such a weak position. You've got Patterson, who's completely inept. You've got Coleman, who's 37. You've got Jake O'Brien, who's meant to be our third choice centre back. In my opinion, I would drop Tarkowski and put O'Brien in there if Tarkowski continues to put in these howler performances. But we can't do that because we haven't got anyone to play right back. So what we don't want to do this season is basically have an entire team where the starting 11 is dictated to by who we've got available, and not actually be able to put in players who are best for the occasion, best for the strategy of what the manager wants and the opposition we're playing. So we've got to bring in, if we can't get a right back in today, I think we've got to go for the centre back, a left-sided centre back. Obviously, we looked at Nathan Ake, for example. He would slot in as the left centre back and allow Jake O'Brien to basically be that right back, not needed at right back. But I just think, are we going to go to like a really flat back four with Mikalenko, who's, for me, he's a player that should have been moved on this summer. He 1 year left on his contract. He would have been a player that I would have looked to have sold. And I think if Everton hadn't had so many different priorities, Mikalenko would have been moved on, and we would have gone for a much better left back, because that is a position that I think we are particularly weak in. But, we've had to prioritise, and we haven't looked at left back. We need to do something with his contract or sell him. again, that's the sort of player where you drop him to backup left back and you bring someone else in, and if he's not happy, you eventually move him on. But that's the been a movement in the squad. But the right back position would have been such a position to improve, and to do so with relative ease. I also a little bit worried about central midfield. I'll come to right wing in a minute, but central midfield concerns me because all the midfielders, we've got Tim Irabunam, we've got James Garner, and we've got Garner Gay. But Garner Gay's 36 years of age. I think he's pushing 37, is he? Or he may be in September, just turning 36. Turning 36 in September. He's going to the African Cup of Nations. Is he a player that we can continue relying on? He didn't play well in pre-season, didn't play well against Leeds. Are we going to be able to continue playing him 90 minutes week in, week out? So you leave yourself with James Garner in there, and he's had fluctuations in form, although I've been very impressed with him in the last 2 or 3 matches. I think he's really excelled in whatever position he's played and really wants to fight for his place and earn his place and keep his place. Timur Abunam, I think he got a lot of credit against Brighton, but for me, I just don't see it with this guy. I'm going to be someone who thinks, I think we tend to fall apart a little bit when he comes on. You saw against Wolves, we conceded a goal almost instantly, and Irabunam wasn't at fault for it, but he was a player that went across to try and disrupt the opposition attack and was nowhere near it. I think he ended up falling and slipping over. So they ended up scoring. So you've only got the 3 options in midfield before you have to start shoehorning. And this is what I mean. You then have to put Dewsbury Hall as a number 6, number 8, number 10, a deeper player, or who else? Charlie Alcaraz. Neither of them are really players who want to sit and discipline. I know David Moyes has always, in the past at Everton, gone with a single pivot and 4 sort of creative players. So we might not need 3, but at the moment we've been gone with Garner, and when we've played Tim, I think we've been a little bit more exposed. He seems to do well when we're on the front foot and we're playing with the ball and we're carrying the ball forward and trying to make things happen. But when we're on the back foot, I don't think Tim is as good as some of the other players and doesn't have the distribution levels that I want. I think you could immediately upgrade central midfield. So another central midfielder would be amazing. I would have loved to have got Douglas Luiz at Aston Villa. The former Aston Villa player, but he's gone to Nottingham Forest. One of 3 teams that seem to be able to just spend whatever they want. I'll come to that in a moment. But central midfield, right back, we touched on, and I'm hoping today maybe we can just add another wide player, maybe someone with just blistering pace, maybe someone who can play up front or on the wing, who offers pure speed, doesn't need to have a lot else in his game, doesn't need to be particularly strong. Although, you look at someone like Semenyo at Bournemouth, strong and quick. These are the types of players that you'd love Everton to sign. But if we could just get someone with a bit of pace who could be a sub, who could just get the ball, run, because there's going to be a lot of games where we need to get up the pitch fast. We need to ping it in behind, and we need pure speed. And I don't see any of the forwards, or to be honest, any position with blistering pace in this team. So yeah, no pace whatsoever. We do seem to be looking at young players. Mark Foster saying it looks like a loan with a 20 million obligation. There seems to be a lot of those deals going around, Mark, where they try and take a bit of the risk out of the deal by a loan with a decent fee. But then at the end of it, you're almost guaranteed, if you meet certain conditions, to sign him on a permanent deal. The worry with that, though, is does it push a lot of our budget next season into certain players? So you have to find the balance between very risky targets where it might be really easy to meet them, and then you kind of get stuck with a player just based on appearances. So hopefully there's some stronger performance metrics in there rather than just straight appearances, because we saw with Alcaraz in the end, he was quite a good player, but we couldn't play him because we were frightened of triggering the clause, which we ended up triggering anyway, which is the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard, to be honest. We should just played him. So, right winger, I'd like to see a little bit of pace. Now, of course, there are some news just general going along. I'm sure there'll be plenty going on before 2 p.m. when Chris and Chad are live back on Follow Everton. If you haven't already liked the video and subscribe and you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave your comments below. As you can see, they're coming up on the screen as well. And if you're over on X, give us a follow on X if you're not already, and come over to YouTube and give us a subscription. We're trying to hit 5K. I think we're well worth the 5K. Come and support us and help us. If we keep getting subscribers, we'll keep going with this channel. Now, some of the other transfer news so far. Villa looking at Jadon Sancho. He was going to Roma at one point. He's been touted to so many different clubs. He is a left-sided winger, so I can see why we didn't move for him ourselves. There's been Fiorentino Luis. He's gone to from Benfica to Burnley. To be honest, I would have liked him as a squad player, but clearly we've decided not to go in that direction. Maybe he wants guaranteed first team football, goes to Burnley, then ends up on a relegation clause at the end of the season. Talk of Josh Brownhill, another player Everton have been linked with. He's off to Wolves on a free transfer. They're talking to him. He scored 18 goals last season, but it was in the Championship, which is a different kettle of fish indeed. Phil McNulty's just given some breaking news. I'm not Phil's biggest fan, but he does say on BBC, the corrupt organisation, that Everton are hoping to secure new signings, plural. And I think Everton this season, don't say it too loudly, but could be in with a real chance of Europe and beyond, because you look at the way this league is, the likes of Newcastle and Aston Villa being stripped of the best players, Liverpool breaking the British transfer record twice in one season, spending over 80 million on multiple players. Again, the three top biggest signings after winning the league, it's absolutely crazy. Chelsea seeming to buy anyone and anyone, but no one worth having. And Arsenal, another one, buying dross players. And you look at the standard of the league. Man City, again, refusing to sign a right back. Pep Guardiola, stubborn as hell, won't sign a right winger, playing Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis. These players are just not Manchester City iconic world-class players. So you look at the league and you think, we're not going to compete for the title. We're not going to compete for Champions League. But look at the sides like Newcastle falling off. Aston Villa falling off. The top teams are no longer top. The Chelseas, the Arsenals, the Cities, they're no longer top. Manchester United Football Club, nowhere to be seen. Spurs, crap against Bournemouth. And they are supposedly the top side. So the mid-table is getting weaker. Sides like Wolves, unable to spend money. I think if Everton could get some business in, if you handed me a 15 or 20 goal a season striker into this team now, I've got no doubt we would qualify for Europe. Without a doubt. We've barely spent this summer. We have spent less than Liverpool will have spent on Alexander Isak. And Sunderland have currently outspent us. There's got to be some more money in the pot. Now, Phil McNulty saying we want signings. Merlin Rohl, of course, there's been the feature signing, £20 million deal. Is he worth 20 million quid? I don't want to sit on here and profess to watch a lot of German football. If there's anyone, who has watched German football last season, who can give us the cold hard facts, but he's a 23-year-old, 6'4" midfielder, mostly plays box to box by the sounds of it, but can play anywhere. Doesn't seem to score or assist a lot of goals. So I want goal scorers. If you're coming in and you're playing in one of my attacking positions, I want goals and assists. And if you're playing as my pivot, you need to be a good defender. And I'm not sure he's either at the moment, but I'm sure our world-class recruitment team know exactly what they're doing. I just really hope we can get a right back. And speaking of right backs, Bournemouth have just signed AC Milan fullback. He is a left back who can play right back. I think he's a right-footed defender. He's just signed for the Cherries on loan. It is an obligation to buy at the end of the season from AC Milan. So AC Milan clearly don't think he is up to it, but need to make 18 starts. Again, if he's making 18 starts, he's good enough. It's probably quite low risk on that basis for Bournemouth. They have signed a fucking right back. Sorry for my language. It's before the watershed. But it's become an absolute farce how we've not been able to sign a right back. Jamie Vardy linked with Everton earlier in the window. There was some talk of Vardy potentially joining on a one-year contract. But he is going to Cremonese in Serie A. Player, of course, could be on the move today is Mark Gay. Scored a wonderful strike for Crystal Palace yesterday in a 3-0 win against Aston Villa, who just looked way off it. And the best player, Emi Martinez, is a world-class goalkeeper, not in the side. They look like they've replaced him with a complete imposter in goal. And Gay is a player that could go to Liverpool. Please, God, he doesn't go there, but it's inevitable he's going to go there. I think he'll go there today. But is he going to play? Because he's left-sided centre-back, and so is Van Dijk. Possibly would have been a decent replacement for him. But, yeah, really, really frustrating if he goes there, because they're just building a really good squad. And I think when you come from a basis of already having a really good squad, and you can pick and choose and swap out players who don't perform like Darwin Núñez and are going by the best of the best, you can't compete. You know, PSR is really hampering certain teams. But Mark Gay, not the one who's left Sunderland to go to Chelsea, are back. If this Chelsea haven't had enough time buying new players, they like to buy their own players back. So Gay could be on the move, of course. And then the Aston Villa goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, former Arsenal keeper, he could be on the move. I think he would have been a great signing for Manchester City or Man United or even Chelsea. I think he would have been a really good signing for Chelsea. He would have really sorted that out. Speaking of Chelsea, I think they should have just signed Isak. Shouldn't have bought all these other players. Arsenal's front, I don't rate Noni Madueke at all. Don't know why they signed him. Eze as a left winger as well. I'm pretty sure that's not his best position, unless I'm missing something. Baffling. They are absolutely spineless, and City are spineless. I know they're going to sign Donnarumma today, the goalkeeper from PSG. He is a real beast, but can he play out from the back? Yeah, I think he can. I think he can play out from the back. You know, he's played PSG. They've just won the Champions League. He's a top keeper. I think, how would you feel if you were James Trafford, though, if you've just joined them? But I suppose he's going to be on a massive wedge at Manchester City, Trafford, and he'll probably take that and then end up going on loan again. I don't really want to talk about Alexander Isak. I just pissed off so much about that because the guy's clearly got a bad attitude. I don't like Newcastle, but, you know, you feel concerned that a team like that who want to progress and have got all the money in the world, state back, can't buy anyone, you know, to really go to that next level or offer him the contract. And then he has to go and he goes to them. And they won the league at a canter last season basically because there's no decent teams competing with them. And I think this season, again, there's no decent teams competing with them. And they've proven in these first 3 games, you don't need to play that well to win when you're quality. So they've got another player coming in. And I think the league's already probably done and dusted. I'm that negative about it. I think they're going to win the league. Fiorentina Luis being asked about him. £1.73 million fee for the loan. Seems very, very reasonable. Mark is in agreement with me. Total agrees. A real opportunity to progress this season. We need to take advantage. I agree. This is a massive season where we could do something. We could make something really happen. We're close to 4.2 subscribers, 4,200. We need 4 more subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed to us and you're watching on YouTube or X, please can you come over to Follow Everton YouTube channel and help us out. There's 841 of you watching, 789 of you on X. I really don't know how I can get this channel to grow and so many people watch on X. I mean, I'm grateful for your support, but, you know, really trying to push those numbers up. It really helps us with the algorithm of where our videos fall. Okay, so happy to talk about anything anyone wants. So it's a little bit of an open forum now. Get your comments in. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to address? What's on your mind? Okay, Brighton and Hove Albion in talks with Crystal Palace to sell. Sorry, Brighton and Hove Albion centre back Igor. Um, he is in talks to join Crystal Palace. Now, I think that is the deal that will allow them to sell Mark Gay. Piss off. Nicholas Jackson, he is an enigma. He was meant to go to Bayern from Chelsea. And of course, Liam Delap gets injured for Chelsea. He's not the world-class striker they needed to compete for the title. It would have been Alexander Isak. But Jackson, frozen out there. He was going to Bayern Munich. Chelsea have said you can't have him now. Now Newcastle are after Nico Jackson. He's a decent player. He will get 12 to 15 goals a season. Alexis Sanchez going to Sevilla. Mad. I can't believe he's still playing. Of course, United are selling Anthony to Betis. Real Betis. They're making a £50 million loss on him. Man United can just lose whatever they want and still somehow able to just spend £70 million on dross players. People talking about Merlin Rohl, box-to-box 8, athletic, positional versatility, left-footed, cuts passing lane, presses like Decore, not as quick. Just don't think he really... Yeah, Cherky at Man City out for 2 months. A lot of injuries to Manchester City players, a lot of injuries to Arsenal players. But yeah, you look at Liverpool players, Mohamed Salah seems to be allergic to getting injured. They're jammy bastards with the Chris Kavanagh again yesterday. The handball, Konate. Why is this guy never able to get sent off or penalised for anything? He's like, he must have something on loads of players. Your penalty appeal was non-existent, and it was exactly the same as the Dewsbury Hall one. In fact, the Dewsbury Hall was nowhere near as bad because Dewsbury Hall is right next to it. Is Hincapie a left back? He is. Sort of player that we need. Proper left back. But yeah. Zinchenko. I mean, you could argue, Chris, that Zinchenko would be a very, very decent signing for us because he covers left back. He's got more about him going forward. He knows how to play in systems where you have possession of the ball. And he can also play as a number 6 as well. So when we need someone in there who's tenacious, I think he would offer a really good option. So yeah, potentially that could be a very good signing. Chris Coleman. Hi, Chris. Lamptey gone for Fiorentina. I just think he was a little bit too small for the Prem. I think he's a very good attacking right back in terms of getting forward, holding the width, getting in behind. But Lamptey, yeah, I don't think that was ever really on the cards. The link for Artem Dovbyk at Roma's gone a bit quiet. This transfer window's been absolutely exhausted. The amount of players we've been linked with that have, I mean, to be fair, we had the persistent links to Jack Grealish. We had the persistent links to Dibbling, and we got both those deals over the line. But are there any players that you feel that we've missed out on really big? Kobbie Mainoo. Still talks of Kobbie Mainoo, but that would offer us a little bit more in midfield in terms of defensive Nouse. I think this Man City should have really pushed for Tivo Livramento at Newcastle. I think that is the player that they needed. Newcastle's right side, just looking at it, Elanga and Livramento are miles better than what they've got. They've really fallen off a cliff, Manchester City. This different generation of players that they've got. Oh, okay. Paul Joyce has now spoken. This is the final thing. Merlin Rohl, a target for Everton in a deal that could cost 20 million as per Paddy Boylan. They all just pass each other off. They all just quote each other. Why can't anyone actually come up with something for themselves? Not going to get him anyway. Just exploring a deal. Exploring a deal. Why do we leave it so frigging late every time? Where is the right back? Oh, I am knackered. Oh, fuck off. Johan Wissa to Newcastle. No, all this does. So Isak goes to Liverpool. They're going to win the league at Canter. They then take Brentford's best player, Wissa. Brentford going to get relegated this season, I think. You can't lose that many players. They had Wissa and Bueno and Buembo, or whatever his name is, and Ivan Toney. How the hell have they lost all three? They have three class forwards. I've always thought Wissa was great. Always rated him. Even before last season, I was raving about him. Brentford have finished. This is why the league can't be competitive when you literally see teams. Newcastle will be okay with Wissa. I don't know about Waltmade. I don't think he's an out-and-out striker. I think he drops into second striker. The fact that Bayern Munich didn't push that hard for him says a lot. They let him go here. They didn't compete. They let him move on. I was really impressed with Newcastle against Liverpool, but just didn't have that tactical and defensive game management at the end to see out the draw, which is insane, really, and extremely frustrating. Brian Brobby at Ajax, yeah, he's going to Sunderland. Sunderland are outspending us. At Maitland Niles, at this point, I'd take him. Andy Hunter at The Guardian. Merlin Rohl is expected on Merseyside today to discuss terms. David Moyes is keen to strengthen in defence with a new right back needed. You don't bloody say. But no one seems to be able to get right backs. Where are all the right backs? I want Nathan Ake in. I want Nathan Ake in. This is just exhausting. 1,000 of you watching. And I'm really, really tired. We've got a stream at 2:00. I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to come back in a couple of minutes, if that's okay. I'm back. Oh. Aussie Chris, do you want to join me for 5-10 minutes? My laptop battery is going to die here on us as well. So, it's a Christmas miracle. We have a charger. It's charged. Oh, we can't charge and use that all at the same time. Fuck my life. We'll come back later. We'll come back later on today, as I've only got a couple of minutes left to charge on this laptop. I think we've already covered most of the things going on. We're kind of waiting for a little bit more news, so it makes sense to kind of return to this later. We've got 2:00. If anything happens before then, we can jump on again and discuss it. But I just had a moment where I was thinking, yeah, I'm getting frustrated watching, for example, Liverpool sign Isak, and just because they are insufferable. And I think if any diehard Evertonian who lives in Liverpool knows it's pretty unbearable. And then you look at the other teams and you just don't see iconic teams, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, United, they're no longer play. You don't look at them and have the fear that you maybe had 10 years ago when you played Arsenal with Van Persie and all Henry and Chelsea with the Drogbas and all them. It's not the same anymore. But then you look at it this way, I think Everton have got a really good chance of doing something this season, regardless of the new players. And I just think if we're really ambitious and we want to go a step further into Europe, we've got to get a right back today and a central midfielder. Let's focus on ourselves. We can discuss the transfer news as that's coming in, but we seem to be in a much healthier position. We got rid of Doucouré, Jack Harrison, Calvert-Lewin. They were all absolutely useless. They made us really bad to watch. They didn't score goals. They didn't assist. They didn't gel. And now we've changed the style. We've got players who interchange, who get them behind, who make clever passes, who are intelligent, who are not afraid to make things happen and get on the box, but equally so are tenacious. They work for the team. They defend hard. So we can be really excited. And hopefully Barry starts scoring some goals. Beto continues to score goals. Hopefully we can get in that extra legs in midfield today. I don't think it's likely we're going to get any surprise sort of world-class players coming out of nowhere. It's the first step in a long staircase. It's a terrible analogy, but we're on the first step. And it's a big step. And then these are little steps. And I'm quite happy and content with what we've done in terms of who we've got rid of and who we've brought in. I just want a few more because I think this is such a big opportunity this summer to go and get to another level and to take this team into Europe, which would be great fun. And I think our fans deserve it. Yeah, I've been linked with those. Callum Fisher at Norwich. He's not going to come in as first choice right back, though. Maitland-Niles was never a right back. He's just been pushed in there. And Hector Ford. Hector Ford? He was linked with someone else, wasn't he? Is that a contract next summer? He's a right back. Linked with Everton a few days ago. 5 million euros. Guys, thank you so much for watching. What a pleasure. Back at 2 o'clock. That's in 3.5 hours with Aussie Chris. If anything happens before then, I will jump straight back on and I'll get my laptop charged. There's over 1,000 of you watching across X and YouTube. All I can ask is if you'd be very kind to hit the subscribe button. In fact, I'll show you what you do. You go on YouTube. YouTube. You click, this is our channel on YouTube. Follow Everton. And hit the subscribe button there. Thanks for your support. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Look at all those comments. Absolutely love you. Thank you so much.